into another edition of Inside ULM Athletics with Scott McDonald. I'm Mike Hammett, and here we are. It is February. That means we're into crossover season between basketball and all the spring sports. We've got some indoor track going on. They're going to go outdoors soon. It's an exciting time, and Scott, here we are. I mean, this is a busy time. We always talk about it. It's always a busy time, but right now we're in that wonderful crossover season.
Absolutely. You have basketball, like you said, that's coming toward the back stretch there, but baseball, softball, tennis, golf, beach volleyball, track and field certainly, and then, soccer still practicing, football to kick off spring practice here before long, and it makes for a busy spring, but it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. We'll get after baseball here in just a minute. We have Coach Michael Federico joining us here today, but I wanted to start off basketball's at home this week on the men's side, and it's Wednesday, Friday instead of Thursday, Saturday. That means they're both 7 o'clock tips in the evening. We've got some student activities going on. I believe some free food for them this week.
Free food this week.
Oh, yeah, pizza.
Students always love free food, don't they?
They do, and I think Coach Russ Friedland figured that out in volleyball season. He got some students there with some food, so go with the food, and it's an exciting time. I mean, this men's team, you look, it was a rough weekend last weekend, but it's a 1-point loss on the road at App State Saturday. They have 3 losses on the road, either at the buzzer or right there at a point. I mean, this is a good team. It's a balanced conference, and these are 2 big games this week.
They were extremely big games. Both these Georgia teams we could have beaten on the road, and was part of that sequence you're talking about. 2 last-second shots, and but for 2 seconds, those were 2 wins right there. So they're coming here. We owe them a little something, and I know in talking with Coach Richard yesterday and last night, and again this morning, he still remains very excited about this basketball team. They compete very hard. They're exciting to watch. So we're going to have a good crowd Wednesday and Friday night. As you said, we did some adjustments to accommodate TV, and so little Wednesday night crowd, Friday night crowd, get everybody behind us, and I think we'll be 2-0 at the end of this weekend.
I hope so. Big week for men's basketball. A big week, I guess you could say, for baseball. It's that final full week of preparation as they get ready to go next week. They open at Alex Box Stadium, taking on LSU next week on Friday night, and then Air Force and Army to follow that, an Armed Forces weekend down in Baton Rouge. And Coach Fed joins us today. And, Coach, an exciting time. I know you've got to be just about ready to roll here with the season. It's kind of one of those. You've been working all fall. You've been working here for a few weeks in the spring. Are you guys close? Are you ready to just get out there and get after it?
No doubt. Once the Super Bowl's over with, it becomes baseball season for sure. And I know our mindset is, we're getting prepared for our first action next week. But also, it's a marathon a little bit too. So, we're trying to prepare ourselves with a very tough preseason schedule to get us ready for our 30-game conference schedule in the Sun Belt, which is, an elite league.
Looking at this group, you lost about half the team. You bring in a lot of junior college transfers. I know a lot of baseball programs kind of work that way, and it seems like it's a lot of new talent anyway to try to work in. How's this group come together so far?
Yeah, it's an interesting group. Got 27 new players. Our coaching staff did a great job the first year from the recruiting side to kind of put this together. We represented with 13 different states. We got 2 kids from Canada on our team as well. So, they're coming together. They work extremely hard. I think our weight room time, even when we started in August, up until this point has laid a really good foundation for the guys to come together. And, we've been working on the baseball field to identify, positions. And the hard part with so many JUCO guys is we've had to move some people around. You take a junior college shortstop, now you're moving them to second, or, a starting pitcher in junior college, now he's your back-end closer. And so those are going to be the things that we'll have to identify early on from a role standpoint, and getting those guys to accept them and then really be sound in that position.
Scott, you were part of this program years ago. I'll put the number in there, but you were part of this program a while back. And baseball at ULM, there's quite that tradition there. And Coach Fed has this group. I know there's a lot of excitement around it. Just as someone who was a part of this program at one time, how excited are you to see what he's building here?
Oh, I could not be more thrilled. Baseball has done traditionally here very, very well, and there's a lot of really good baseball that's played in this area. And what Coach Federico has come in and he's rebuilding this program, and to see the improvement that was made in the team, and then I know what kind of program he's establishing with these young men, and his outreach to the baseball alumni, that his outreach to the community has been tremendous. If people haven't come out since last spring to see the facility, they'll notice some facility upgrades that he and his staff have done personally. A little elbow grease, and I think he made a painting crew out of a couple of assistant coaches. So I could not be more proud of where we are, and then knowing where we're going, because I know the kind of effort, I know the kind of people that he's bringing into this program, staff-wise and player-wise. I can't wait to go down to Baton Rouge and watch them take on LSU. I have very high expectations for this program.
Coach Fed, he mentioned those improvements that you and your staff have done. Just kind of take us through, what have you been working on to spruce up the facility, and what will fans maybe notice this year when they come out there?
We have a tremendous facility. It's been one of those things that just we needed to address some small little things here and there. We've put probably over 200 gallons of paint all over the place, whether it's the the brick wall. We put some logos on the brick wall in the dugout. We've painted some stuff inside, so it's just spruced up the facility for our players. They see that we're actively working, and we're doing a lot of the work ourselves, because it's going to help us with the recruits, and it's going to help just make our guys feel prideful of what we have. Again, facility-wise, it's great. I mean, this program has a storied tradition as well. You can sit here and talk about all these other places, but winning 10 championships, being in 5 regionals. This place has 7 Major League Baseball players that have gone through here, and I think it's like 56 or 57 guys that have been drafted. There is a lot of people that have experienced a quality education, but also had a tremendous opportunity to be able to play on a big stage from the baseball side of it, and we want to get back to that. And by opening up at LSU, that's kind of what we're putting ourselves into. I mean, I tell our guys, we're a 4 seed, they're a 1 seed. This is a place that's a storied program, but they host regionals year in and year out, and ultimately this is what we're trying to prepare for, is the end of the year, and like I said, trying to get ready for that 30-game Sun Belt schedule.
Well, let's look at this team, talk about what you have here. First of all, on the mound, I know you have Trey Jeans back from a year ago. You have Miles Dunn in that bullpen. How's this staff setting up this year?
Yeah, it's going to be, a lot of new faces from that standpoint for the average person that comes out and watches us play. We've got a graduate transfer in Jacob Barton. He graduated from Mississippi State. He's a local kid. He's going to be a weekend starter for us. We've got a JUCO kid named Caleb Sanderson, who's from Omaha, Nebraska. And he should be a weekend starter for us as well. And then we've got 2 other junior college guys that'll be midweek starters for us, in Connor Deeds or Cole Martin, depending on how the matchups go from that standpoint. We've got Cole Gray and Colton Childress that are back, that got significant amount of innings, along with Miles Dunn, who you just talked about. There's the key for us is going to be to identify that from a roles standpoint, who does what, and putting them in those situations. We've got a kid named Brock Figueroa who's got a tremendous arm. Landon Longsworth, who he's kind of a diverse guy. He can kind of throw from some different arm angles and stuff. So I'm excited about that. A lot of new catchers for us. We got 3 new catchers of our 4 guys. So that'll be a high concentration area for us that we've got to get a little bit better. We've got a tremendous player in Chad Bell that's back. He's got a potential to be an all-conference player. And then we've got some unique guys that are from, again, different parts of the country that are coming in. Trent Tinglestad, Ryan Humanick, Colin Gordon. I mean, we got guys from all over the place that are very, very good baseball players. Colin Gordon played in the Junior College World Series last year, in Grand Junction, Colorado. So he's experienced big-time baseball. We've got Cam Horton and Justin Barton, who both won a national championship at LSU Eunice last year. So there's an expectation for our guys to win. We've got some guys from some winning programs, and they're holding each other accountable.
You talk about bringing in some guys who have had some experience winning in their past. How much does that help as far as you're trying to build a program? Those guys know what that's like and try to take everybody else and say, this is what we need to do. This is the kind of culture we had. This is how you have a winning program.
Yeah, I mean, winning has to be the expectation here. We don't want to finish second place. We want to be in every game and have a chance to compete for a championship at the end of the year. And baseball's unique because on a weekend, ultimately it's very, very difficult in college baseball to sweep somebody. But taking these junior college guys and understanding we have to win 2 out of 3, and that has to be the expectation. And then when you are 2-0 on the weekend and you go into Sunday, okay, now we have a chance to get that sweep. That's going to be, again, one of the things that our junior college guys that we have coming in, they have to understand the complexity of a weekend that, you may lose on a Friday night, but hey, it's okay. You got the closer in the game. That's a positive, and we grinded him down, and it's going to help us win a Saturday and Sunday game. So baseball's a unique sport with that. Again, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and we've been trying to implement that into our players, but ultimately the expectation is we're going to win.
Scott, I'll turn it over to you for a moment here. I mean, this program, you got to like their direction and where they're headed. We kind of touched on that earlier, but I think it's exciting to see all the players he's brought in. I think I'm excited to see, as he's talked about, some of these pitchers, some of these this lineup. I think is going to be fun.
Well, and Coach Fed can tell you, last year, bullpen, I think you had, one left-hander in the bullpen, Coach. Really didn't have a lot of guys he could send to the plate and late inning situations, hitting from the left side. So he's already gone about reshaping this roster with a real idea, with a real purpose of what does this roster need to look like. So I think the depth you're really pleased with, Coach.
Absolutely. I mean, and we've got some key guys that they may not play day in and day out. Like a Blake Buckman who's been in this program for a couple of years, but we have a lot of left-handed hitters. We don't have a whole lot of right-handed hitters, which a lot of people can't say that. But you got a guy like Buckman who's been around that can, give us some help off the bench a little bit. And we've improved our lineup. We've improved our depth. And it's going to be interesting to see, again, how it all shapes up. Injuries happen and things like that. But the roster is definitely, more depth in there. We had key players last year that were very good baseball players, but we just didn't have that depth around them if an injury happened or some of those kind of things. So it's going to be unique to see how this group comes together from that standpoint.
And some speed offensively that allows you to create in those stretches where sometimes you're not hitting the ball out of the ballpark. Now you have a little speed that you can do some things creatively.
Absolutely. Speed shows up every day. You might get a matchup where you may not be able to drive a ball out of the ballpark, which we have a couple guys that can hit home runs, but we've got 4 or 5 guys that can really run the bases. We can go first to third. We're going to put pressure on the outfielders that hopefully they throw to the wrong base, and now we take an extra base out of the box. Where maybe even one of our slower guys can get to second because they're looking to throw it to third instead of throwing it to second, keeping the double play in order. And we're going to play with a little reckless abandon from that standpoint on the bases. We have to, because we have to pressure those teams that way.
Well, I think where you see it gets manifested, Mike, just like last year, as the season wore down, played really, really well early in the year, Coach, and then I think some of those injuries, some of that fatigue because you were dependent on the same guys day in, day out at catcher, at other positions, and so it really the struggles came toward the end of the season when you saw that depth really take its toll on your roster.
No doubt. I mean, it's a difficult league because of travel sometimes. We're in some of those unique places where, it's a long bus ride home, and then you got to show up and you got to play on a Tuesday. Fortunately this year we're going to be able to fly to App State. That's going to be easier on our guys' bodies, from that standpoint. But last year we had to bus to Coastal Carolina, and that's a long bus ride. And then you got to show up, back on a Tuesday, and you got to win those games because those are just as important. And we've got the structure from our administration, like yourself, they're buying into that, and that's going to pay dividends to our players for the health and welfare of their bodies throughout.
Get set to open the season next week at LSU. You've talked about that. I think 2 weeks, too, when you get to come home, open with SIU Edwardsville here at Warhawk Field. It's going to be exciting. As you set up this schedule, and especially the non-conference part of it, what are you looking at as far as getting this team ready for the Sun Belt and working toward that postseason?
Yeah, the two tournaments I think are going to be very, very, important for us to, again, what we're trying to get to at the end of the year for us is getting to the conference tournament, that is our number one goal, is to get to the conference tournament. And so, the LSU weekend and the Pensacola weekend shapes up where you're playing different teams on different days. So, you don't really know what you're getting into from that standpoint. And even the first weekend, it's a regional setting. I mean, 2 of the 3 teams were in regionals last year. So, again, that shapes up from that standpoint. We're going to see 2 SEC Friday night guys. We're going to see LSU's Friday night guy. We're going to see Tennessee's Friday night guys. So that's going to get us ready for a guy like Gaddis who's preseason probably going to be the pitcher of the year from Georgia State. I mean, he's an elite arm, a Team USA arm. I mean, that's the kind of things we have to put our guys in that mode. Because again, our league is very, very good from top to bottom. I mean, you've got we've got the potential to have 4 to 5 teams in a regional year in and year out for the Sun Belt. And not being at Power 5, depending on where guys' RPIs shape up, it can happen. And it's happened before, and I think it can happen again. But there's some really, really good baseball programs in our league, and I think we've taken a step forward to put ourselves in that mix. A lot of people don't know anything about us. I mean, we still, as coaches, we joke all the time. We don't even know enough about ourselves right now. But again, we're better. I think we're going to shock some people with what we've been able to bring in a short amount of time. And I can't say enough about my assistant coaches that have helped us do that.
Scott, as we start to wrap things up, I mean, this, like we've talked about, this baseball program, it's exciting times. Softball is exciting, too, with what Molly Fichtner's bringing to the table. They open their season this weekend. Beach volleyball, I mean, here we go. Busy time of the year, and I think there's a lot of excitement, a lot of good things going on right now.
Yeah, as I go around the athletic complex, and I'll go by and I'll see beach volleyball practicing, and they're working really hard. And I know Russ is excited about what he has there. And I see Molly, she's out there, she's grinding. I walk over to baseball, watch Coach Fed and his guys. I hear tennis balls being batted back and forth over there with Terrence and it's just really. It makes for a great day. I get a chance to walk around, get to visit with each of these coaches, some of these players, and just a sense of pride you come away with knowing, these programs are all advancing and where we're going to be, not just this year, but going forward.
Absolutely. ULM baseball opening its season 1 week from Friday at LSU. A reminder, men's basketball is Friday this week instead of Thursday. Saturday, 7 o'clock tips. Georgia State Wednesday, Georgia Southern on Friday. Coach Fed, thanks for joining us. And as always, Scott McDonald. This has been Mike Hammett. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Inside ULM Athletics.